Okay, so just going to press the record button. Done. Right, let me go back to sharing the screen. Okay. Yes, so the session will be recorded and you can check in and have another look at that afterwards if you want to by signing in on your IIBA page. I'm sure, Peter, we can find a way to make sure that it's accessible for your community as well. Please do stay on mute if you've got any background noise. In fact, probably it's generally a good idea to be on mute unless you're ready to ask a question. You can just type questions in the question panel at any time and we will do our best to get back to you at the appropriate time. And I think we're going to be in sort of presentation mode for a while, and then there will definitely be time for some questions when we get to that particular point. So, as I say, this introduced myself, and I'm just going to ask Peter to introduce himself, and I'll come off the share so that you can see both of us. And it's up to you whether you stay on your camera or not, completely up to you. So I've introduced myself. Peter, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Saffron. It's Peter Leather. I'm here tonight on my in my role as Sophia Updates Manager. So that's looking after the update of Sophia 7 to Sophia 8. And we're doing that as a global effort and trying to include as many stakeholders and representatives from different disciplines as we can. As part of this is how I got in touch with Saffron. Various leads got me to Saffron and spoke to her on New Year's Eve. And we've moved quickly to try and get a mapping of the Babok to Sophia, really as a means to start the conversation going and try and show the, the opportunities and the ways that we could work together as communities on both these shared assets. Previous life, I have been a BA. I was just trying to count back. I think it was early 90s when I first did work that would be called business analysis. In those days, we were doing business process re-engineering, which was all very exciting at the time. And I've also, when I first came across Sophia, I was working for a large insurance company, and I was running quite a large BA practice there. So business analysis is in my DNA, so to speak. But at the moment, my focus is on Sophia, the skills framework.
Mm. Excellent, thank you, Peter. And yeah, so you've actually beaten me because I started as a BA in the early 2000s and not met many people who've been doing BA work before that, but you do meet them. Right, so I know the next thing on my list is to do some polls. So I'm going to kick off with those polls because I think it'd be interesting just for us to understand who we have on the call. So you should see a question come up about how familiar you are with the Sophia Skills Framework. I've given you a range of answers, but not too many. Oh, you've got all the questions actually. Might be showing you all the questions at once, is it?
Three questions.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, fill them all in then. Don't know how I've managed to do that, but there you go. So I'll give you a little bit of time to indicate your familiarity and to tell us whether you yourself have ever tried to map the two together. I have tried to do something like that when, well, probably 2 or 3 years ago. So when I heard that Peter was looking for someone to help us with this, I thought, well, that would be great because I could have done with this when I was trying to work out what exactly is a business analyst role and what kind of levels of skills do you need. Right, okay, I'm going to end the polling there. Don't worry if you didn't get to answer the question. Really, we just wanted to get an idea of who's on the call. So if we look through questions 1 to 3, so number 1, how familiar are you with the Sophia Skills Framework? So we've got not that many people who are very familiar, which we thought was what we would get. So you will get to understand the Sophia Skills Framework a little bit more with what Peter's going to be sharing with you. How familiar are you with the Babok, the body of knowledge for BAs? A little bit, quite similar. We've got a little bit more people proportionally who are somewhat familiar with it and some who are not at all, and that's absolutely fine. And I should do a little sales pitch here. If you want to know more about the Babok, I am one of the people who leads the regular monthly webinars where you can find out a little bit more. So number 3, have you ever done your own local mappings? Well, we've got about 13% of people have tried that, like myself. So that's really interesting. So thank you for that. Right, I'm just going to jump back into the presentation. Cool. So we've done the polls. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about the Babok. So Babok stands for Be a Body of Knowledge. You're probably aware that lots of different professions have these bodies of knowledge, and the aim is to be a kind of definitive guide to the job, to the skills, to the tasks. What does it take to be a BA? This is available as a large orange book, which I normally hold here, but I haven't. It's just out of reach today. It's available as a large orange book, or you can obviously get an online copy. And there's a lot of content in there. Just wanted to show you, I think the next slide. Yeah, there's a lot of content in there, but there is a structure. Obviously, as BAs, it's very structured. And really it's around 6 knowledge areas, which are these identified here. And these are the where we've done the mappings to. So for example, we've done mappings to elicitation and collaboration. We've done mappings to solution evaluation, etc. So these you'll see a little bit more about as the time goes on. But what you can see from these knowledge areas is that there's not necessarily a particular starting point. There's quite a complex relationship between each of these. And we're not going to be sort of telling you a great deal about the Babok itself, but just to know that there are those key knowledge areas, and that's what the mappings have been done to. There's obviously other content, and then there's also additional add-ons. For example, there's an agile add-on to the Babok. But this is very much the core that we've concentrated on. So any questions on the Babok, or shall I hand over to Peter? If you do have a question on the Babok, just want to know a little bit more, feel free to ask a question now. Right. Okay, Peter, would you like to tell us a bit more about Sophia?
I will. Let me just get the screen up. So it's interesting to see the percentage of people knew about Sophia. So I think we're at about 40% were unfamiliar. And that left 60% who were familiar or somewhat familiar. Now this was kind of the percentage that we were expecting, which does leave the, how to present this is quite tricky, because I'm either going to give you detail that you know already, or things that I'm going to go too quickly. So I'm going to try my best to steer this course. Saffron, can you tell me what's on screen at the moment?
Yeah, I can see your slide 18.
Slide 18, okay.
There we go. I think we're back at the beginning.
Key messages.
Sorry, any messages?
Is it key messages slide?
Key messages, right, okay, yep. That's right, yep.
So Sophia's got a lot of depth and breadth to it. So what I was trying to work out here was just what's of most relevance to the conversation around the Babok and what we're doing in trying to map to it. So a few key messages, and I'll go into some of the detail off the back of these. Sorry, Saf, can I just check? Is it the individual slides with the small ones at the side, or I'm on the big?
You're on the big, so we can only see your main slide. Yeah.
Okay. So Sophia is very broad, so it's not focused on any particular professional discipline. So it covers business analysis, architecture, project management, data science. It covers cybersecurity. A whole bunch of skills belong to different professional disciplines are in Sophia. So it's broad framework. It's also broad because it is used globally, so it's not specifically aimed at countries or regions. It's a broad use of it. And the word framework is quite important because Sophia is very unprescriptive. Sophia is a framework that people and organizations pick up and use it in a wide variety of ways. And it's fair to say if you people in a room together talking about Sophia, they'll invent a new one before they've left the room. They've all sorts of ideas and different ways of using Sophia, and we just let that happen. You know, it's better to put it out there, make it useful, and encourage people to pick up Sophia and use it in many different ways. It's not describing knowledge, so it's quite different than the Babok in that way. It doesn't claim to be a body of knowledge. What it describes is work-based experience and the levels of responsibility at work that would be easily recognizable to you when you pick it up. And it's not about particular jobs or job titles. It doesn't assume organization structures. So we thought about the BA profession. It doesn't say what a junior BA should be or a senior BA. It doesn't say that your teams need to be structured in this way. There will be BA skills that people use in there, and they don't call themselves a BA. Equally, there'll be BAs who use skills in Sophia that we might think are not directly related to business analysis. So it's very flexible in that way. And that's deliberate because it's hard enough to come up with common skills to be used and define them all. It's almost impossible to come up with prescriptive job titles or org structures. So we say, you know, that's up to organizations to pick up and use as they wish. And as a summary, we think it's really complementary to bodies of knowledge. They need to work together. And we have tried our best over the last 12, 18 months to forge relationships with bodies of knowledge owners so that we can start to bring those links to life, publish them, and help the communities from either the Sophia side or the communities who use those bodies of knowledge. So it's a really important area for us, and that's why we're really pleased to be trying to get this moving on the Babok. Now, one way of thinking about the broad coverage of Sophia, and this is a little bit anecdotal, this one, but just before Christmas I came across this survey, which was from the World Economic Forum, and they were, I'm sure you've seen things like this before, they were forecasting what future jobs might look like. And they came up with this top 20 roles, the ones that were increasing, and the top 20 that might be decreasing. And I had a quick look at this, and I thought this was really interesting, because when I looked through the increase in demands ones, I could see that Sophia had the skills related to most of those increase in demand jobs. And on this one, a very rough and ready mapping, the green ones where we have a really good coverage, the orange ones where we've got partial coverage, the white ones, I don't think we've got anything directly in that space, and the dotted green line around artificial intelligence and machine learning was to signify that Sophia 8, we're going to be addressing the skills around those types of roles. Now, the sharp-eyed amongst you may be looking to see where the business analyst job is. And, we need to educate the World Economic Forum because they quite clearly not recognise that as a job. But I think if we look a bit closer, I think it would be under things like that, management and organisation analysts, digital transformation specialists, for some BAs, process automation specialists, plus I guess dotted around in areas like big data as well. So I think BAs are covered, but maybe people need a bit of education in terms of what they're doing. So this was really exciting news, seeing that Sophia is mapping these in-demand jobs. The next bit I was moving on to, and this is going to be the education bit, I say it's fairly brief, but the core framework of Sophia describes levels of responsibility. It has generic attributes that describe those levels of responsibility, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later. Then we have a whole bunch of professional skills which are named, described, and described at different levels. Overall, there's about, there are 102 skills and about 390 skill level descriptions. So it's a really, really rich framework. And one of the things to get used to with Sophia is how to navigate and get to the right content that you need. And with our website and with the reference material, we try and help people do that. What makes Sophia different than many other frameworks is that this broad range of skills across many disciplines is all represented in the same way, the same structure, the same style. And as we go through this, you'll see why that's really helpful for use in the workplace. The other thing about Sophia is that over the years, we've had demand from around the world, so it's now available in 10 languages. The vast majority of the translations are done by Sophia users, so we find that really encouraging because we get a good quality translation rather than one that's just based on you know, a textbook translation. Now, Sophia, for those familiar, may think it's a purely UK-based framework, but over the years, so Sophia's been going for about 20 years, and over the years, it's got more and more global. Again, there's no big marketing effort around Sophia, so this is just people picking it up and using it. And when we hear about them, we get them involved in what we're doing, try and collaborate with them. We have a Sophia Council, which is represented with countries across the globe in all the continents. And we have this real volunteer effort, community effort around what Sophia is doing and driving forward. Over the last 10 years or so, down the bottom there, I was trying to point out that the Sophia efforts has gone from just that core framework to being a broader ecosystem of people using Sophia and having different tools and resources to help people get the most out of Sophia. And that's important for what we're doing today because the mapping to bodies of knowledge and similar frameworks is one of those elements.
Peter, just to check, nobody's asked it yet, but majority of this or all of it is free to use?
Oh yes, sorry, good question. Yes, thanks for that point. Sophia is a not-for-profit organisation, and if organisations and individuals in the vast number of circumstances can just pick up the framework and use it, you can either access it on the web or you can download the reference manual and the spreadsheet versions of it, and that's how most people get hold of Sophia. The only time you'd use it is if you were trying to make some commercial exploitation, and there are a number of tools providers and organisations who do that, and Sophia consultants also pay a license fee to use Sophia. But if you're working in an employer or working as an individual, you'll be able to download and use the framework for free. Thanks for the prompt, Saffron.
That's okay.
So what I was describing there is this ecosystem. So we have a number of organisations or types of organisations that use Sophia, professional bodies, partners and consultants we just talked about, employers are the biggest user of it all, education providers, tool providers, other competency frameworks who map to Sophia. And what that's led to is this growing ecosystem around this sort of satellite of different tools and resources that we've made available or developed in response to demand from users. And a couple of examples there, the mapping to the bodies of knowledge, that started off as a simple, let's list all the bodies of knowledge because we think Sophia users will find that helpful. We did that and we suddenly found we're getting loads of hits on the website because there was nowhere else where this list of industry-wide bodies of knowledge was compiled onto one page. So that worked very well, got people interested and hopefully a benefit to the body of knowledge owners as well as people finding out about Sophia. Skills assessment guidelines. Again, we published this, we trawled around people using Sophia across the globe and found how the best way to do this and mapped out a number of different ways of doing it. And now that's become a very popular resource where people and organisations can grab hold of that and they use it to help their internal or personal use of Sophia. So that's the gist of it. We're trying to do stuff that people find useful and open to any collaborations to make that happen. We are getting to the core of the framework now. So why does Sophia exist? If we look on the left-hand side there, we see this cycle of activities that we do to manage people in organizations. So whether it's doing organization design and job profiling, recruitment, deploying resources onto projects, assessing people's skills, identifying skill gaps, developing people to fill skills gaps or develop their careers, and aligning reward and recognition to jobs. So those are the purpose for what Sophia exists for. And then on the right-hand side are the components of Sophia, of which the blue top half is what you find documented in the Sophia framework. And the green part about knowledge is the really important part that makes up that whole. But if I go back to the beginning, Sophia does not map knowledge. It just recognizes that's a really important component. And that knowledge could be in bodies of knowledge like the Babok, or it could be knowledge that's particular to tools and techniques, or it could be knowledge that's very organizational specific. So in your own organizations, how do you do business analysis? How do you run workshops? All those things that are specific to an organisation, and the tools and templates you might use would be in that box as well. So the two go hand in hand, the stuff that's described in Sophia and knowledge. So Sophia has 7 levels of responsibility described, and that goes from the very entry level, level 1, all the way to the highest level of an organisation where we've got level 7. Each of those levels has a brief title label, which are these ones here: follow, assist, apply, enable, ensure and advise, initiate, influence, and set strategy. And those levels are all described using these 5 attributes. So what level of autonomy you have in your role, what level of influence you have, what level of complexity do you deal with, what do you work with in terms of knowledge, in terms of the complexity and your responsibilities around knowledge, and then a general catch-all around business skills, which includes things like communication or collaboration, general things that you'd expect to see. And what Sophia has done is to capture those descriptions and work with those. So if we look on this diagram here, this box here, this is digital forensics. So that's one of the skills in Sophia, nothing to do with business analysis directly. And what Sophia contains is a description of what digital forensics is. So that's the text here in the top right of that box. We have a level 4 description of what Sophia in general does. So those are those descriptions of autonomy, influence, complexity that I described. And there's a little paragraph behind each of those, which again is fully available in the framework. And then where Sophia kind of works the magic, it says, well, if this is what digital forensics is, and this is what generically level 4 is, then on the right-hand side, we get to what does a level 4 in digital forensics look like? And so we get to a level of granularity that then allows a degree of mapping to job profiles, or mapping for skills assessment, or mapping for what are we learning on courses. So it starts to then build out to a really useful resource that is usable. And what we're trying to make with it is a framework that people can pick up and use in their day-to-day work as simply as possible. So trying to eliminate some of the complexity around this. So getting to the difference between Sophia levels. So what you should see with Sophia, the design, is that there are clear differences between these levels. So when you're thinking about development or trying to assess whether someone's at the right level or not, or whether you're trying to apply a level to a particular job or role in your organization, what we should be able to see are these incremental differences. And what I've tried to highlight here, I'll just work through a couple of examples, but if we looked at autonomy, so we're going from level 3 to level 5 to level 6, so increasing levels of autonomy. So at level 3, what Sophia says, and I've just picked out the highlighted, it's not everything, but at level 3, they're receiving specific direction, accepting guidance, and has their work reviewed at agreed milestones. At level 5, I've missed out level 4 just because I wanted to show the breadth of coverage, but level 5 talks about establishing milestones and a significant role in the assignment of tasks or responsibilities. And then level 6, we're now working at an organizational level, so establishing organizational objectives and assigning responsibilities. So that incremental difference that you can see works across the influence one, the complexity, and the business skills, which I haven't fitted onto this slide. That then flows through into the skill descriptions. So if we look at business analysis, which is one of the core skills for BAs, not too surprising, we're able to see the difference in what we expect to see. And it's describing workplace experiences, workplace responsibilities. So level 3 business analysis skill talks about investigating operational needs and problems and opportunities, contributing to the recommendation of improvements, and assisting in defining acceptance tests. Whereas when we move to level 5, they're not just doing the work. We've got level 5 are taking responsibility, so that's overall responsibility for investigative work. They're selecting the right tools and methods to be used, and they're collaborating with stakeholders at all levels. So it becomes a more stretching skill description there. But again, hopefully you can see it's describing what the role's about, what the responsibility is about in terms of doing that. And then as we get to level 6, so we're getting more stretching here, they're taking full responsibility for business analysis within a significant segment of an organisation, and they're guiding senior management towards accepting change. So it gets more and more stretching. So that's the core of the framework works. Again, I recognise I'm going quite quickly for someone who's not seen Sophia before, but I'm just trying to give you a flavour and hopefully give you enough interest to delve into detail at some later point. I'll just pause there, Saffron. Is there...
Yeah, no questions so far. If anyone wants to ask any questions, I mean, for me, I think this is just the right level. I kind of found my way around Sophia, having heard about it for several years, and then when I found myself leading the practice, I felt that I wanted to be more structured in describing the different job families, the different jobs within the BA job family, and also I wanted to be able to articulate what it was that the team were doing, and so I went to Sophia, having been sort of pushed at it a couple of times and not taking the time to do it, and I found it very easy to use. So I think what you're showing is it's very structured, it's easy to see how it works, and yeah, any questions?
And I think, Saffron, I mentioned this before, if off the back of this that there's interest in having a slower or a more in-depth look at it, then I'm more than happy to.
Yeah, if you'd be interested.
To do that,
yeah. Oh, here we go. We've got a question. Do you find that Sophia uptake is greater in a particular industry, sector, or size of the organisation? So that's one for you, Peter.
It's very. I've worked. The smallest I've worked was a tea organisation of 30 people, and I have worked with a large India-based outsourcer who had 8,000 employees using Sophia, and everything in between. Because of the history of Sophia, most organisations using it are in the traditional enterprise IT type place, but we are finding lots of use in quite interesting places, and the military is using Sophia in all sorts of wonderful ways. We've found out there's some organisations who use Sophia not just for their core IT teams, but use it for their entire organisation. So I guess the short answer to that one, no, it's picked up and used in all sorts of ways. Individuals pick it up and use it for themselves as well. We see teams in organisations would use it on an ad hoc basis, or you may see a more organisational led approach to it, where everyone's saying we're all going to use it across the whole department. And the other point about it is Sophia, because we're a not-for-profit, we don't have a sales team or people following up on who's using it and how they're using it. So we learn about Sophia in all sorts of different ways, but we don't have a full picture of how everyone is using it. I have worked on consulting assignments where you look at what they would describe as their own competency framework, and when you read it, you recognise actually that's Sophia they're describing there. But Sophia, is not mentioned, so it is picked up and used in many white label ways, if we put it kindly. It's used in all sorts of different ways, and I guess we kind of encourage that. We want people to use it. That's the main reason we're there. We're not trying to make money out of it. It's more just trying to put it out there and get people using it.
Yep. And then there's a comment. In fact, there's loads more comments suddenly. Yeah, Michelle was saying how easy it is to get to grips with, which I agree. In fact, I think it was Michelle who's one of the many people who sort of pushed me at Sophia over the last few years. And then we've got another question: how did Sophia implementation benefit organisations? Slide is on, and the slide on levels is very useful. Yeah, I agree. So a general question there about how does Sophia implementation benefit organisations? Perhaps we'll hold on to that till the end in case there's opportunity for that question. Is that okay, Peter?
Yes, no problem.
Yep.
Yeah. Right, so shall I carry on now, Saffron?
Yeah, go for it.
So one of the things I get involved in quite a number of mapping exercises with Sophia, and we've mapped to other bodies of knowledge like the software engineering one. We've also mapped other frameworks like COBIT and IPTIL and the US NIST cybersecurity framework. and they all have different flavors and different ways of doing things. So what's quite useful, I think, is just to work out why are you doing that mapping, and that helps to bring some focus, because you can map things in lots of different ways, and if you think about what exactly you're trying to achieve, then you're more likely to get something useful out of it, rather than it being just an intellectual exercise. So what we thought about for this one is, if I delve into some detail about professional development, using that as a typical use case for Sophia and bodies of knowledge, that might be a way to explore and expand on some of the opportunities for this, and find out what would be useful in the mapping. So that's what the next slides are. So I'm going to talk broadly, hopefully a number of themes that you will recognize around professional development, with a little bit of an overlay of Sophia and bodies of knowledge in general. And then it would be good to think about, we can come back with either questions or suggestions on how we could take this forward and what that might mean for a mapping. Now, I've reordered things, Saffron, since we spoke half an hour or so ago. So.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. So one of the things, this is a little bit old, this diagram, so there should be a few more modern job titles on there. We haven't got DevOps on there, for example, but let's ignore that for now. One of the things that Sophia helps with is this consistent leveling across professional disciplines. So what I'm trying to just demonstrate here, if we can think about different job families or role families, career families, whatever they might be called, and with Sophia, with these consistent levels, it's easier to see how the roles, regardless of job title, how they map across. You can see the comparison between them. So a level 4 business analyst and a level 4 project manager, in Sophia's generic terms, are the same. They'll have that similarity around the level of autonomy they've got, the complexity they deal with, the influence they need, and the business skills they demonstrate. So it brings that consistency across the piece. And when you get familiar with Sophia and you're looking at a job or an org design, an org chart, it becomes quite easy to say, oh yeah, that'll be a level 3 type role required there. So it becomes a language in itself that helps define those, the level of operating. And what we're trying to do here as well is not to get hung up on it being about the higher you up means you're actually stuck into being a manager of teams or manager of people. Sophia doesn't describe it in that way, so you can be a level 6 business analyst without having any line management responsibility, for example. So it's more about the complexity and the influence and the autonomy that you've got that drives that. So that's a useful way of thinking about how Sophia can help professional development, and I'll go into a little bit more detail. Now, like many people, I'm sure you have seen career diagrams where people try and map all the different routes you might take, and it's complicated enough within just one job family. So if say we were just looking at business analysts, it can be quite complicated in terms of the roles and the ways you can move between different steps in them. Once you're working with Sophia and you're talking about many job families, the options for moving between career steps and roles and job families is just a complete spaghetti, and it then loses any ability to be useful. So what I think is another way of looking at this, and using Sophia and the body of knowledge to help with this, is saying your career options are not dependent on what you're called, they're dependent on your portfolio of skills, knowledge, experience, and that can be described using Sophia, and it can be described using bodies of knowledge. So if we all sit here, and BAs as a profession are quite common, that people come into the role from lots of different directions. So we need to look at what they've got, not what they're called at the moment. And what I've described here is 4 generic ways that you can develop. And I'll just go through each of those quickly and talk about how that might work with a body of knowledge and with Sophia levels. So let's start with the one that everyone talks about, over on the right-hand side, I want to get promoted to a different grade or a different level. So that's one form of professional development. Another way is to say, actually, that blue one, I'm still staying as a business analyst, but I want to try a different flavor, or work with a different business area, or get exposed to some new parts of the project lifecycle, whatever it might be. I'm trying to develop myself, but still within the role as a business analyst. The green one It's saying, actually, I'm still actually working on the same job, the same project, the same assignment, but I'm going to try and develop myself within the context of that. So I might ask to take on some responsibilities within what I'm currently doing, or I want to learn some new techniques. I want to learn how to run workshops like the other people in the team can do, but I'm still doing it as I'm doing. And then the yellow one is saying, actually, let's be nice. Let's say I'm a project manager and I've seen the light and want to become a business analyst. So how do I develop from being a project manager at the similar level, but I want to come and move into a different discipline and develop that way. So if we think about career development or professional development in those ways, we can start to map how the SFIA framework and the bodies of knowledge can help those conversations, or either help individuals or their managers or their career coaches to help them map through what that development might look like and what the interventions might be. The other thing is can be useful if you're managing the practice or managing it, is to think about where do you want external joiners coming in. And if you think about them joining at certain levels, you then need to have a path for them to enter the organisation, be onboarded effectively, pick up the speed of how the organisation works and develop from there. So it becomes a useful map of that and how that should work. So picking up from where we were, so if the development is knowledge only, that could be areas where I need to know how an area works. So I may be working with a new team, or I may be getting more exposed to, let's think, to project management, or I might be getting exposed to, I think Saffron had an example about sourcing. So I need to, as a BA, I need to get involved in some of these things. Now I'm not going to be responsible for them. So it's not a Sophia skill I'm trying to develop or a new level of responsibility, but I need knowledge on a new area or how to do things. So at that point, I might be delving into a body of knowledge, trying to find out about practices or tools, techniques I need to be aware of, but I'm not responsible for those. On the right-hand side, so one of those mappings where we're moving levels of responsibility, or I want to pick up new skills, that means I'm needing to pick up some knowledge. So that might come from a body knowledge or training or education, and I'm going to apply that knowledge at work. So I'm now going to start displaying those skills, and over time I'll develop a competency in that, because I'll be able to do it. I've not just done it once, and I can do it again and again, and people recognize what I'm doing. So I'm growing myself in terms of my competencies and my levels of responsibility. When we think about some of the solutions for how you develop that, so typical things around developing knowledge, things that you can read or study, attending webinars, searching on the web for things, networking with others, attending training courses, just seeing what others do, or maybe some onboarding, induction. All those things develop our knowledge. Then when we want to apply that knowledge, as in developing skills and competencies, we then get into a slightly different realm of activity where we may practice that. We may practice it, first of all, hopefully in a controlled environment, so we can make mistakes and not going to cause any problems. So we might be practicing our workshop facilitation skills and doing it in a friendly environment first within a team, and gradually we build our confidence and we can take that further forward. What Sophia would be describing would be start to take on new responsibilities. So if I was want to become level 5 business analysis skill, I need to take on activity to plan out how we're going to do project work with business analysis. I'm not waiting there to be told how to do it. I'm actually driving forward and saying, having considered this project, the context, the stakeholders, I think this is the way to do it. So that's partly being stretched into taking those responsibilities on. Other development things for us there would be getting feedback on how we're doing against some of those. So we can use Sophia as a benchmark to get feedback on how we're doing. And you can use Sophia to set yourself objectives. People have found that very useful in terms of finding some nice words that can explain to our manager or to other stakeholders, this is what I'm trying to do, I want to do this, can you help me? So what I was just describing there, the way that those two can be used together. T-shaped people, or T-shaped roles, this gets a lot of airing. We did quite a lot of research on this about 6 months ago, and it's not just T-shaped, there's all sorts of letters of the alphabet that people try.
Oh yeah, I haven't heard of any others.
Oh yeah, there's lots of them. So there's a link there which will take you to it, but there's
brilliant.
M-shaped, N-shaped, pie-shaped, cone-shaped, V-shaped,
I'm
all sorts of
intrigued.
They're all describing similar things, and in fact, they all describe it in different ways. So let me describe it in a way I think would. So I think if you think about the T shape, so the depth on the vertical line of the T, I think when we think about Sophia and the body of knowledge, Sophia, those are skills that you are doing as part of your job. They're responsibilities you have, and they're the depth that you need. And that's described in Sophia and described in the Babok. When you look at the breadth, there may be areas that you aren't doing as part of your BA role, but you need to know about. So that's something you'll find in the BA book, but it's not what's described in Sophia. So Sophia describes responsibilities of your job, not knowledge that you need. The other bit you might need in that breadth is things that are outside the BA book. So if you're interacting with particular areas, you'll need other knowledge that you might find elsewhere. So again, I think there's a way of combining that depth where it's BA book and Sophia, and then the breadth, which is would be the BA book on its own, plus other bodies of knowledge or sources of knowledge. And the way of developing yourself is to think about, do I want to increase my depth in a certain area, which means I'm going to take on other responsibilities that I'm not doing currently, or am I trying to increase that breadth? So I need some new knowledge. I want to be able to interact with others and make a contribution in areas that I can't currently do. Right, another way of using Sophia, this is a sort of an analogy really. If we think about riding a bicycle, and the back wheel of the bicycle where you're pedaling, that provides the energy and the forward momentum to go where you want to go. And one way of thinking about what's in Sophia is those generic attributes. That's what that is. That's the back wheel. You can, with that engine behind you operating at level 3, say, you can go anywhere you want with level 3. What you've got is the front wheel where you point in the direction where you want to head. And you do that by picking up knowledge from bodies of knowledge, or by picking up new responsibilities, taking on new skills as described in Sophia. So you've got your engine at the back. That's the big driver. That takes development. That's the thing that you don't lose. That's the thing that you can apply in many different ways in different directions. And then you've got a front wheel to help take your career forward or take your professional development forward in a way that's of interest to yourselves. And a good organisation would recognise what you're trying to go and help you steer in the right direction. I think I've covered most of this already, actually. So what I was trying to get at here, the topic of knowledge is very broad. Again, we have more detail on the website here. And what I didn't want is to leave in the view that all knowledge you need is in bodies of knowledge. But bodies of knowledge can provide an important component, but there's another range of knowledge. So looking on the right-hand side here, lots of knowledge that's particular to organizations is absolutely critical to doing your job. And if you think about when you recruit someone new or someone starts a new job in an organization, one of their big learning curves is just understanding how that organization works, and what processes they use, who the key stakeholders are, how do you get things done. We'd also get exposed to, and BAs maybe not as much as others, but where we've got technology loves its tools and products, and the whole range of the 3-letter acronyms describing people's tools and knowledge skills. That's a really important part of many people's jobs. That could be particular methods that we use in business analysis. It could be things like Scrum and agile working methods, all those sorts of things that might go into there. And then this bottom right, it's a bit of a mirror image of the BA professional practices, but say you work in finance, or you work in healthcare, or you work in the hospitality industry, whatever it might be, you need a range of industry and business domain knowledge to be fully effective, particularly in a role like a business analyst. So the range of knowledge areas to develop is huge. So it's a massive part of your professional development. And as I say, most of that, if not all of that, is outside of the realm of Sophia. That's in that, if you recall, right at the beginning of the slide, there was the bottom half of the graphic, which is all that knowledge base that Sophia complements but doesn't describe. And that, Saffron, is...
Lovely, thank you, Peter. One of the questions we've had is, will your slides be available? And I think you're happy to do that, aren't you, Peter?
Yes, very happy. I deliberately put lots of these detail in so people could review it.
Yeah, brilliant. Cool. So I think I'm just going to go on to my bit because I'm conscious of time. We obviously rehearse timings very carefully. That's not true. we're what's the right word? We are going with the flow. So the flow says time to crack on. So I'm just going to show you briefly now what the mappings look like, and the aim is just to introduce these to you, and then we'll make them available so you can have a little bit of a closer look over slow time. So what actually I think I'll jump over this. There's 6, so you're going to see them just appear briefly, all 6 of them on the screen. There's 6, one for each different knowledge area of the Babok, and the one we thought we would show you tonight in particular and give you the chance to sort of really take in and maybe potentially ask questions about is chapter 4, solicitation and collaboration, because it's very much at the heart of what a BA does. Obviously we are doing these things in the orange box, and what each slide shows you, the orange box is a little bit of a summary of the elements, I think is the correct word. Sam will correct me if I'm wrong. Tasks, right? Okay, yeah, because I sometimes get it mixed up. So these are the key tasks that the Babok says you do when you are doing elicitation and collaboration. So prepare for elicitation, conduct elicitation, confirm elicitation results, communicate business analysis information, and manage stakeholder collaboration. And that's that chapter of the Babok in like effectively 100 words. So you really would want to look at the Babok itself to understand better what it says elicitation and collaboration is all about. But what we've done is we have put on the left hand side those Sophia skills that we think are most likely to be used. So it's a pretty sort of coarse-grained mapping at the moment. So as you might expect, business analysis, or BUAN as I like to call it, I'm sure they have, you do the same, Peter, and requirements definition and management, REQUM, are both Sophia skills that you would probably expect to see there. And so for each of those, we just have a little description as well, just giving a bit of a hint as to why we've included that. Then on the right-hand side, we've also included some that we think may be used. So just have a quick walk through this one. As I say, this is where you're doing your elicitation and getting the elicitation results back together. So you're working with your stakeholders, you're really pulling the information out of them at this point and then just confirming it. So you're not necessarily going back, that's a different chapter, when you go back and sort of present the results and present your findings. This, I think, is really about the gathering the information. So when you're doing that, this is saying that you're doing business analysis, BUAN, you're doing requirements definition and management, or REQUM, you're doing relationship management, so you're establishing stakeholder expectations to ensure that there's good collaboration, input to and support for the coming change. So that maps to our RLMT, which doesn't have a nice easy, easy short word for it, so relationship management. Knowledge management, this one crops up quite a lot actually, which was interesting, because I guess, you know, that's what we do as BAs, we gather information. It's no good if it's in our heads, it's no good if you can't understand it, if you can't give it to someone else and then they understand it. It's also no use if it just sort of disappears or isn't available or accessible. So knowledge management tends to crop up quite a lot. I'm in a bit of a strange mood tonight, I have to say. Knowledge management crops up quite a lot. So yeah, you need to ensure the information is integrated, stored appropriately, and can be accessed, but also controlled. Then BPRE, business process improvement. So you invariably, as BAs, what you're doing is going to relate to business processes. And so you're most likely going to be examining needs and potential improvements through the lens of business processes. That may involve process mapping, may involve process hierarchies, etc., etc. So I think that's a pretty safe bet. That's always going to be part of elicitation and collaboration. Likewise, business modelling. So business modelling can cover a range of different representations of how the business is working. The ones that come to mind for me in particular, my team, we definitely having more of a business design kind of push and a little bit of a move into perhaps more of a business architect thinking. So I imagine, for me, I foresee that some of the things that I would be doing as a BA would map to business modelling, the Sophia skill, business modelling. And project management, again, I know Peter and I discussed this briefly. I think it does tend to crop up because as a BA, you may well have a project manager on your project. That, you know, nine times out of 10 for many of us, that's the case. But even so, you are bringing some of those skills into organising your work, into planning out your work, managing the granular dependencies within your piece of work that you're doing here. So then on the right hand side, we've got the other Sophia skills that we think may be used in this case, and it may well depend in your organisation. For example, in my organisation, we have separate UX team. So they are not necessarily part of what I would be doing here. And also it may be that it's not necessarily a user experience type of project. It could be some behind the scenes analysis that's going on with no interface. And so, you know, a back end system where that isn't so relevant. So that's why the user research and user experience analysis parts are not shown as absolutely most likely to be used, but potentially likely to be used. Then also we have IAN or analytics, which I'm guessing is probably one of the newer Sophia skills, which is taking that sort of database view of modelling, which is something that I think we'd be using more and more. So it's like, what is the data telling us about what we should be doing here? What is the data telling us about how this process works? Or what is the data telling us about what customers find to be a problem? And then DTAN or data modeling and design. Again, at Ordnance, where I work, we have a separate data modeling team, but you may well find that data modeling and data design is going to be part of your responsibility. So that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour through what each of these slides looks like. So when I share the presentation on our website, and the idea of today was really just to give you an introduction to those so that you can go away, you can spend a little bit more time looking through each of these. So there's one for each of the knowledge areas, and then you can give us some feedback and let us know where you think that we might have got this wrong. I think it's probably an iterative process, and today is really launching it. So I'm just going to pause for a moment here and just ask if you have any questions. I can see, in fact, I'll come out of screen sharing because I can see that there have been a few questions come in on that particular chapter. Brilliant. So, okay, so it looks like you've answered that question. If yep.
Sorry, I was just going to reply to Michelle.
Yeah, if I put the slide back up, and Peter, if you pose any questions that are relevant and
yeah, so Michelle raised a very good point, saying, you know, you don't want too many skills for each role, and that is absolutely vital. And I think that's one of the slight dangers with what we're displayed here, is it does look like you might want to have whatever, Michelle, you added up there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 just in there.
Yeah.
So that's trying to tease out, I think, with some of the difference between things that you're actually responsible for and areas where you need to know about, have an awareness of. And that is a very common area of, I'm not going to say confusion, that's not quite the right word, an area where clarity is absolutely important. Architects are normally desperate to have as many skills as possible. They will try and have 22 skills if they could. And what they're describing is they have their fingers in lots of pies and talk to lots of people. They need to know lots of stuff. That isn't the same as the skills that you need to know to do your job.
Yeah, good point.
Thank you, Michelle. That was great.
Conscious of time, anyone got any other immediate questions around this particular slide? If not, we'll jump through the other few slides and then have a little bit of time for open questions. I can see the question panel is lighting up, but without coming out, I can't see what the questions are. So if it's anything particularly relevant, do you want to shout it out, Peter or Sam? I can see you're poised.
Yeah, I'll shout it out. So yeah, question from Pip asking, would it be reasonable to say that a higher level role would have more core Sophia skills then?
Difficult one. I don't know without having, so that's a good point, because what we've done here is a very sort of generic mapping. So from our own experience at IIBA, we haven't thought about it through that lens. Peter, have you got experience of saying?
One way of answering that is the logical conclusion might be that the CIO needs to have every single skill in Sophia in there. You actually think it through and say, the way Sophia works, there's some skills that are aimed at overall leadership or management type stuff. So you don't necessarily get more. You might morph into some different skills that you're going to be using, and that's probably a way to think about it.
Or I guess going up through the skill levels, because again, this is very coarse. It hasn't showed. We've got that you'll be using business analysis, but we haven't said at what level. So yeah, you could be going up through the levels when you're a more senior business analyst doing this kind of work.
There's that knowledge area called business analysis planning and monitoring. So that will lend it to being level 5s and level 6s typically, whereas some of the ones around solicitation will be more at the lower levels going up to the higher ones. So
yeah, sorry, that's what I meant actually when I was saying that. So the higher you are through Sophia levels, the more the greater depth your breadth of knowledge is as well, because you've got the experience then to back up the knowledge that you have.
Yes, well, we love these conversations, because you might then say, who is the deepest expert in particular business analysis techniques? And what we're trying to encourage you don't say, well, it's the one who's got the highest Sophia level, because we want people
so
to do
that's that, Peter, following on from our conversation, that's what I've been trying to do in my team, is to look at the range of skills and depth of those skills across my team. So this is really interesting. I'll shut up because we've only got a few minutes.
Yeah, as time is running out, unfortunately, but yeah, you can always, I'm sure you can get in touch with Peter via LinkedIn. In fact, I think you suggest you're already in touch. But yeah, if you want to get in touch with myself or Peter via LinkedIn, feel free. Right, so I'm just going to jump through. So what we're going to do is we're going to publish these on the website so that you'll have the opportunity to take a look at them in slower time. And I'm just going to jump to this slide. For myself, it feels like there's potentially lots of different uses for this. As Peter was saying, we're thinking about it in terms of sort of personal development. And actually, that is what we ended up doing in my team, is that we are, as individuals, we looked at where were we and what were the gaps and where might we need to fill or move through some of those gaps. But certainly we think you can use these sorts of definitions to help to kind of marry them together. Really helps you to sort of say, well, the job role is this, and particularly if we then go on to look at a more junior role, a more senior role, etc. But right now it gives you a bit of a head start to say what the BA job role is. And potentially you could use it to help you define the terms of reference for BAs. If you're about to do a piece of work that involves these knowledge areas, then you're probably going to be needing to do these things and use these skills. Learning development, as we've talked about. And then another potential use is the communication of the scope and complexity of the BA role. That's something that we always find in our annual BA survey that we run, and that people feel that their role is not well understood. And so it can really help with that. So roadmap, what happens next? We'd really like to hear your feedback. If you want to chuck anything in the comments and questions, feel free. Otherwise, contact us afterwards. But yeah, we'd really like to get your feedback from today. And this is going to be an ongoing conversation, because we're going to put the draft of these mappings out shortly, and we do intend to sort of iterate through. And so any feedback that you give at any time will not be lost. So please do give us your feedback. What we might well do is and these are some other ideas about other things that we can do between IIBA UK and Sophia, Peter and his colleagues there, is we could use the Sophia skills to map to the IIBA practice maturity model. We could map and create potential BA job family structure that we think you might, if you think that's going to be useful, that would say, this is what IIBA says a junior BA looks like. We propose that we review and update the mappings at least annually, or certainly when there's a new Sophia or a new Babok come out, and we know that there's a new Sophia coming out later this year, a new version. We could also map to the Babok Agile extension. So there's many things that we could do. and we'd love you to tell us what you think we should be doing. But not right now, because time's running out. So comments, I think. Final questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a poll up, and in the last, just to see what you thought of today, and also in the last few minutes, if you do want to ask us any questions or put comments in the box, feel free to do. That would be lovely. And in the meantime, I'm just putting out a poll to see what you thought of our session this evening. So I think there's a few questions come in while I've been talking. Peter, I think
I think I might have, Michelle, I might have ended up replying directly to you rather than to the.
Question for Peter. Yes. So Michelle's question. Yeah. Did you want to pick that up,
Are you going to
Peter?
take the chat and publish it, Saffron?
Sorry?
Are you going to publish the chat?
Yes, I should be able to publish chat. Yeah. So Michelle was asking.
What I've done, I've ended up replying to Michelle. I thought.
I see. Yeah.
All this.
Yeah.
All this useful information. I'm cutting and pasting as we speak. So.
Cool. Okay, I'm going to end the polling, and as the results are pretty good, I'll share them. I did think if they weren't that good, I probably won't share them, but no, I think these are quite good. I'm really pleased with that. If you are in the so-so, do let us know if you can, what it was that you weren't getting, or if you thought you were going to get something a little bit different. So yeah, any final questions before we wrap up? Michelle, you're on mute.
No, I just said I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Very informative.
Good. Yeah, good. Brilliant. Well, it sounds like that's it. So I'm going to sign off there then. And what will happen is I will merge together Peter's slides with my slides, and you'll be able to see the full set of mappings. We'll put them on the IIBA UK website, and Peter will have a copy so he can decide how best to share that with the Sophia community. In fact, I think, Peter, you've already put those on. So when you go on to the Sophia website, you can see them. That's a different way you can see the mappings. Michelle's nodding. Yeah. She's been there and done it. She loves Sophia, don't you? I also agree. I agree. Lovely. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll wrap up there. Bye-bye.
Everyone.